students, but if that doesn't apply to you and you're here anyway, that's okay. You can still ask questions. Our format this month is the same as our usual one. So if you've been here before, you'll recognize this. If you're new, we'll go ahead and introduce each of our panelists. They're going to give you a few minutes of sort of their latest information, things that they think it's important for you to know. And then we'll go to the Q&A. Please do type any questions you have in the Q&A. You can do that now or as people are speaking. Don't feel like you need to wait. And please do type your questions in. I always try to remind people, if you have a question, the chances are someone else does too. So you are really doing them a service by putting it into the chat. And you're especially doing a service for those who are either on the phone or watching the Facebook stream and cannot put questions into the chat. So please do put those in and we will go ahead and get started. So first up, I'm going to actually go to our graduate student representative who is here because I think it's really important for all of you to hear from your peers and your elected representatives. So over to you, Song.
Thank you, Jillian. Hi guys, my name is Song. I'm the International Committee Chair from AGS, and I'm also a first-year PhD student from the Department of Biomedical Engineering. So our major responsibility is trying to identify and assess the needs and desire of international students in aspects such as health, housing, and visas, our major concerns. So please feel free to contact me if you have any questions. I'll leave my emails in the chat.
Thank you so much. And in keeping with our theme of elected representation, we also have Jeff Barrett here, who is the Faculty Senate Chair. So he represents all of your faculty advisors. He represents me, he represents lots of us, and can talk a little bit about what the Senate's doing to support our wonderful international students.
So thanks, Jillian. My name is Jeff Barrett, and I'm a professor of logic and philosophy of science and currently chair of the Academic Senate. The Academic Senate is the regular faculty on campus. And at the University of California, and I'll say a few things about this because it may be interesting and it may give you a sense of questions to ask. At the University of California, there are responsibilities that are allotted to the administration. There are responsibilities that are allotted to the faculty, the Academic Senate. And among those things are things like courses and curricula, how degree programs work. And so the Senate works very closely, in particular with Jillian, on issues involving graduate education. And it's our pleasure to do so. Among the things we do is, we care about our graduate students. We also care about our undergraduate students. And so we've been looking at language proficiency requirements for the graduate students. And so if there are any questions about that as we go along, I would be glad to answer them. We do lots of things connected to our graduate students. We think of our graduate students as our youngest faculty colleagues in many cases. And it's our pleasure working with you.
Thank you so much. And I also want to say thank you because I know that the Senate has been doing a lot of work on English language proficiency, as well as on rules around making sure that our students are not getting up in the middle of the night, hopefully to take synchronous classes and so on. So lots of great work on your behalf this year. With that, I'm going to turn it over to Archana Sheth, who is here from the International Center. So all of you have interacted with her office in one way or another, and she can give you some updates on how things are going as well.
Hi, everyone. Good afternoon. Well, if you're in California. So as Jillian said, my name is Archana. I'm here as the Interim Associate Director for the International Center. And we're here to support our students through their entire academic journey in relation to their F1 and J1 immigration status. So right now, for any of you in the room that are continuing in your programs, we know you've been through a very challenging academic year thus far. And so a lot of the advisement you may be getting from our office might be individualized to your specific situation, depending on where you are, whether that's in the US or outside of the US. So we're here to support you in that transition to either maybe returning back to campus. Some of you may be coming to campus for the first time. So I do encourage you to please reach out to our office. We do like having that individualized just eye to look at your specific situation and help you determine what's happening, from everything related to if you must apply for a visa, what those travel plans will look like, what accommodations we're working with the university for in terms of what that looks like if you may not be able to get here for summer or fall. So we're working on all of those things with the campus, and we will do our best to assist you. Just please reach out to our office. Please be patient. We know there's a lot of questions out there that are coming through to help, try and navigate getting to campus, or if you're here, what next year will look like for you. So we will do our best to support you. We know immigration is complicated, but we're hoping for the best for this coming school year.
Thank you so much, Archana. And speaking of hoping for the best, we do have not only folks like Archana who help facilitate what you're doing, but also people who are working on your behalf with our federal government and with our state government to try to get it to a place that really serves our students and our university best. So with that, I'm going to hand it over to Lou Bronstein.
Thank you, Dean Hayes. My name is Lou Bronstein. I'm the Assistant Director for Federal Government Relations. My position at the university is I work across the university within divisions like graduate and also with the centers like International Student Center on any issues that kind of arise that would be in the area of the federal government. So if it's an immigration issue, if it's dealing with visas, with the federal agencies or the elected office holders. My role is to support, to bring issues to our congressional delegation that they should know about, but also to serve the students in the community on issues that may arise that we may have to have casework, or maybe we will need some help from a federal agency to resolve a problem. So I'm a supporting role. And then my colleagues also work on the state level and the community level.
Thank you so much. One of the big questions that we get from a lot of our current and incoming students, whether international or from the US, is about what's going on with our health situation here. Obviously, it's been a tough year. So I'm going to hand it over. We've got a pair of people on the call today who are going to give you some great information. So I'll hand it first to David Salelis, who is our COVID czar. He has an official title, but I like calling him the COVID czar, as well as Albert Cheng, who's our medical director for student health.
Great, thank you for the opportunity to be here today. I'll take just a couple of minutes to kind of set the landscape of where we're at and then talk about where I think things are going, with the caveat that it is constantly in flux in terms of where we're at with COVID. So I think, as most folks know, we had a very difficult fall and winter here in the United States, with a very significant surge of COVID in the United States, and certainly here in California and in Orange County. That surge began to dissipate around the second, third week of January, and really led to a very significant decline in the prevalence of COVID here in California and in Orange County. At our peak, we saw over 150 cases a week here at UCI amongst students, staff, and faculty who live on and off campus. Our highest week was 154 cases the first week of winter quarter. To give you an idea of how that compares with now, we are bouncing between 5 and 10 cases per week total on the campus. So a really significant improvement in terms of the disease burden on our campus. That's reflected in California as well, a significant drop in the number of new cases reported daily. Same here in Orange County. Hospitalizations are down as well. Testing positivity rates are very low community-wide and here on campus. All of that is good news. And we hope to keep those trends continuing. But it is with a note of caution that in a number of states, we are actually seeing an increase in COVID cases and in hospitalizations and ER visits, and an increase in young people who are presenting at ERs and to hospitals as well. And United States is actually seeing an increase in daily cases reported in the last couple of weeks compared to a few weeks ago. So it's a bit of a race right now between trying to prevent another surge in California and getting enough people vaccinated in our state and here in Orange County, so that we can hopefully ward off another surge in cases. And to that end, I just want to make sure that everybody who's in California is aware that effective April 15th, anybody 16 years and older in California will be able to receive a COVID vaccine. And we strongly encourage all of our students to be vaccinated. Vaccination is going to make the difference in terms of what our fall experience is. The higher our vaccination levels, the better and more new normal our fall will be. So I really want to encourage you to do that. For those of you who are here in California, you can register on myturn.ca.gov to make a vaccine appointment. Any of you that are in the Orange County area, you can actually get vaccinated at a number of locations, including by UCI Health at the Bryn Events Center. So there are a number of other ways you can get vaccinated as well, through your healthcare provider, through pharmacies. So wherever you happen to be, please check out those vaccine opportunities and get vaccinated now. It will begin to make a difference in a variety of ways for you in terms of whether or not you have to quarantine after a close contact. It will facilitate travel significantly for you. So keep that in mind as well. Both national and international travel is facilitated by being vaccinated, reducing quarantine timeframes, etc. So I would also encourage any of you that may be out of country but have vaccine availability in your countries by licensed vaccines that are available in your countries to please take those vaccines now, and that should give you protection as you travel to the United States and as you arrive here in California. So the constant refrain from me, whenever you hear me talk from now until the fall, will be vaccinate, 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 my 3 top recommendations. The last thing that I'll say is that guidance here in California, public health guidance and public health protection measures are evolving rapidly as vaccine levels increase and as case counts decrease. So this is a bit of a time of flux for those of you who are on campus in terms of changing guidelines, things loosening up a little bit, but maybe not quite as quickly as people would like. Again, we're in that race between getting enough people vaccinated to prevent a future additional surge. But just know that between now and the fall, we're going to be seeing a lot of changes in federal and state guidance around public health protective measures. The campus is working very hard to conform to those guidance documents. And we are working very, very hard to create as much of a good in-person experience for the fall as we can for all of our students who will be learning here on campus, and those with us remotely as well. So thank you.
And over to you, Dr. Chang.
Thank you so much, Jillian, and thank you all for inviting us to participate on this very important panel. I can't echo enough of what what David has mentioned about vaccinations. It's, I think, made a huge difference, and we're seeing the effect by our numbers being very good. So I'm the medical director here at UCI Student Health Center, which is the building behind us. Some of you may have been by, some of you may have not yet been by. So we're the clinic on campus. We've got about 10 to 20 providers kind of on any given day providing care to you all as our students. And even if you do not have our UCI student health insurance plan, there are different levels of care that we can provide to support you. So we have primary care providers, we have specialty providers, we have mental health providers, pharmacy on site, laboratories on site, radiology, a lot of wonderful service to you as your primary care doctors. But a big part of what we do is also to support just the health and well-being of our campus as a whole. And I think in this past year has really shown us the importance of our teamwork together. So we as the Student Health Center are the clinicians. And so when we do testing, when we have positive cases, we kind of take control over that management plan to make sure our students do well. And I'm kind of fortunate to, in crossing fingers, to say of the students that we've had positive over this past year, all have recovered very well. We had very few, if any, hospitalizations. So this is the benefit of being 18 to 25 or 30 years old. COVID really targets a different population. And so we've been able to set up the structure to prevent unnecessary exposure, and then to identify those positive cases, looking at potential contacts, isolation, quarantine, and I think that's done a wonderful job. And this is an example of how we work very closely with our housing units. So Tim Trevin, who will explain, and Jennifer, who will explain their positions, we are working hand in hand with them on a daily basis to make sure that student safety is a priority. David Suleilis and his team, through contact tracing, look at each positive case. Who were they around? Who may have they exposed? These are individuals that need to be paid close attention to as well. We work closely with our academic departments. We work closely with food service, custodial services, and our athletics team. So our athletes on campus are competing, certain sports are, and so they're being tested also in a frequency and that we must keep close eyes on. So testing has been a big part of our work this past year. It will continue to be what we do moving forward. And I think one of the big things for me here, prior to COVID, I've had some experience working with Dean Hayes and with graduate students, but COVID has really brought us to a level of intimacy. So a lot of the questions that have come up, making sure that the perspective of you all as graduate students, and especially as international graduate students, these are unique issues and concerns that we want to be sure to address. And when we hear about your specific concerns, issues, we can more easily, make your experience here a safe and healthy environment. And then we also want to share with you all the services that we provide out of our Student Health Center and the resources that we have on campus for our graduate students, for physical, clinical health, for mental health, for wellness, for stability. Our goal is your success, and we've got this whole team that's on this call right now, in addition to everyone on campus, is here to support your success here at UCI. So there's a few silver linings from COVID. One is that it's brought us all much closer together.
Thank you for that. And I do agree that is one of the silver linings of a really painful, tough year for us all. So thank you for that. An excellent transition to our last group to do their introduction. As expected, we've already got some questions about housing in the chat. So pass it over to our Executive Director of all of Student Housing, Tim Trevin, and his team.
Thanks, Dean Hayes. As Jillian says, my name is Tim Trevin, and I'm Executive Director for Student Housing at UC Irvine. If you're already here living with us, we've enjoyed having you. And if you are remote and planning to be on campus next year, we are really looking forward to your arrival. Couple of things I'll tell you about student housing and grad housing here at Irvine. We do house probably about 2,800 graduate students in 4 different communities: in Campus Village, Verano Place, Palo Verde, and then in the American Campus Community Apartments, which you'll hear as ACC at times. We do offer a guarantee for all of our residents who are in a terminal degree program, including MFAs and law students. So we are able to provide housing for quite a few of our students. One of the most exciting things that we're going to be able to launch very soon here, with approval from Academic Senate, is we're anticipating being able to go from right now a guarantee that takes you to the last year of, to your second, to the last year, N-1 of your program. And we're anticipating being able to provide housing for the entire term of your normative time to degree very soon here. So with that, I'm actually going to introduce 2 of my colleagues who are your best contact points. With me today, I have Jennifer Nelson Martinez, who is the director at Palo Verde Apartments, and then Gretchen Verdugo, who is our expert graduate and family housing analyst. And she's probably the person that you'll interact with even more than the directors. So I'm going to toss it to Jennifer to introduce herself, and then to Gretchen.
Hello, as Tim shared, my name is Jennifer Nelson Martinez, and I'm excited to be here. We have 3 on-campus graduate family housing communities that work to serve you. And as Tim was talking about, our exciting news for the week is our grad gatherings, right? And so we've heard from many students, especially international students actually, but all of our grad students, the impact that COVID has had on isolation. As case numbers stabilized today, we were able to introduce to the campus a new policy allowing for gatherings in small numbers, up to 3 per household. So you should have received an email about that. If you didn't and have any questions, feel free to ask us that. But we're hoping that we'll be able to address some of the concerns that graduate students have expressed around feeling isolated and everything. And I'm going to pass it to Gretchen, who is our expert on our grad guarantee, to introduce herself and talk about some things.
Hi, everyone. I'm Gretchen Verdugo, and I am the Graduate and Family Housing Analyst, and I support the 3 graduate and family housing communities, Palo Verde, Verano Place, and Campus Village. And I am here to facilitate your return to campus and your connection with your housing guarantee. If you're someone who canceled your housing contract or deferred housing and are looking to return to campus in the fall with your guarantee intact, or if you have a housing application, a waitlist housing application, and you have questions, you can reach out to Grad Status. I'll post my email in the chat for all attendees, and you can pick that up. I'm happy to answer any questions that you have or get you connected with your community assignments team. Anything that you need, feel free to reach out to Grad Status, and I'll be your one-stop shop. Thanks.
Thank you so much, housing team. Well, we do have lots of good questions already coming in. Some of them have already been answered, but keep them coming. Couple of things I'll just say. If you have a very specific question about your specific immigration situation, really strongly encourage you to go ahead and email the International Center so that our Chana's team can look at that. So for the very, very specific questions, we're probably not going to answer that today. But a broad sort of question that underlies a couple of the specific questions that have come through is, what happens if it all goes wrong? So right now, we are absolutely planning for campus to be in person in the fall. But things can happen. As David Soulelas mentioned, we're still watching what the public health context can be, and who knows, we can have breakthrough kinds of infections, we can have new variants, we can have things that might happen. You know, Lou's team is watching what's going on with the State Department very closely and advocating as best we can, but things can happen. And we know there's a backup of quite a number of visas, and it may be that the consulates don't open in time, and so on and so forth. So we can't give you a strong answer as to what we're going to do if it all goes wrong, because we're still making plans. And if there's one thing we've learned from the year of COVID, it is that plans are there to be made and remade again as we go through. But my team, the Office of the Vice Provost of Teaching and Learning, Michael Denon, as well as Jeff's team on the Academic Senate side, are all working very closely together to ensure that if the worst happens and you cannot get here in the fall, we absolutely are going to make sure you can still be educated at the University of California. Even down to, we're applying for special licenses to allow our students who are in countries like Iran that are otherwise prevented from online education, applying for those to get you to be able to connect online, all of those things. Jeff, I don't know if you want to add anything to that.
Yeah, so one of the things we've learned in the pandemic is we need to be flexible. And our aim, as Jillian just mentioned, is to work with our students to try to do something that's doable for you. And so the Academic Senate has been encouraging the faculty to be maximally flexible. As you know, that's easier with some of our faculty than others. We like to think that everyone will be as accommodating as possible. That said, you know what the message is coming from us, and I think the faculty have done a very good job, and I think they've learned how to be increasingly flexible over time. So explain if it seems appropriate. explain your circumstances to the faculty involved. And if you run into difficulties, let us know, and we'll try to get things sorted out.
Thank you so much, Jeff. Another question that's come in that is not international specific, but I'm just going to throw it out there because I know a lot of you have it. You are wondering when the DTI fellows will be notified. The expectation is no later than April 15th. So just want to make sure that everyone knows that they will come, those will come from the Office of the Vice Provost for Teaching and Learning. So we did get a question about the progress on English language testing. There was a typed in answer that had a little bit of inaccurate, not quite up to date information, so I deleted it. Apologies for any confusion that may have just caused folks. But I'm gonna call on Jeff to answer that, as that really lives with the Academic Senate.
Yeah, so this is something that the Senate has been working on. Earlier this year, the Office of Equal Opportunity and Diversity let the Academic Senate know that there was a notice of findings. And what this required us to do is to go back and revisit the requirement for language proficiency for teaching assistants and teaching associates. And so we put together a task force and charged it with developing a new policy for English language proficiency. And we looked across the UC system at what the sister campuses are doing to get a sense. And then there were basic compliance issues. And so we talked with the folks from the Office of Equal Opportunity and Diversity. We talked with Campus Council. Then we had the relevant Senate councils review the policy. And in brief, what the policy is going to be going forward is that all graduate students, except those who have earned an undergraduate degree from an institute at which English is the sole language of instruction, according to the World Higher Education Database, will be required to demonstrate oral English proficiency before they're appointed as a teaching assistant or a teaching associate title. The way to show oral proficiency is one of the 4 standard ways. And so for additional details on that, our recommendation to Jillian's office was that this be implemented right away. And I believe it's being implemented right away, yes. So students who have questions on this will be able to get information from Grad Division.
Yes, thank you for that, Jeff. So that does mean, by the way, that if you were born and raised in the US and you attended university abroad, you will be required to do English language proficiency as well. So it's very much based on where you were educated as opposed to where you were born or where you maintain citizenship. And so we're going to try this out. We're going to keep working on it. To answer the other part of this question about international students being consulted, absolutely. So we're so grateful for Song, as well as other folks through AGS, as well as a variety of other people who contribute through Graduate Council, through a whole bunch of different ways, and they're contributing to any discussions about graduate policy. And this is where I'll do my advertisement on behalf of AGS, and also if someone wants to add anything and say, you know, if you want to be a part of this decision-making, please run for AGS. They are doing their elections right now. And I know that there are some schools that do not have anyone running for elections. So I'm going to pass it to Song to see if she wants to say anything else. But the AGS partnership with both my office and with the Academic Senate is just incredibly valuable. So please keep contributing in those ways.
Thank you, Dean Hayes. So basically what AGS was aiming for is not only to build a network with graduate students, but also we wanted to serve them with their needs. And then what we're striking for, we want to strike for a network of alumni with current students. We want to have events that is for them socialize, get them to all the resources that is on campus that is available for them, and then possibly answer questions that they may have. And then as you guys might know, we're currently running for elections, which is a great opportunity if any of the students, incoming students that want to participate into this society, that you wanted to have your voice being heard and talked about your stipend or housing or just, being part of this government in general. I really greatly appreciate it. And then please don't hesitate reaching out to either the VP or the President Connor or me personally if you have any questions related to running through AGS. That would be greatly appreciated. Thank you.
Yeah, and I'll add very quickly, the Academic Senate works very closely with AGS, and we have graduate students on each of the councils on the Academic Senate where graduate issues are discussed. And that's an important part of our reflections together as the Academic Senate. And so any participation along those lines, if you're interested, you're doing the campus and your colleagues a favor.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Keep the questions coming. We've only got a couple in there that we haven't answered yet, so please keep them coming. We did get one question from a staff member about sending out these policies. I believe they were sent out, but it's been a deluge of email this year with COVID. I don't know if anyone else feels that way, so we will get these resent out to make sure that everyone knows what's going on, especially as we've got incoming students coming this fall and trying to make sure that everyone is prepped and ready to go and all the rest. We also have a question, and this is a thorny one. So I'm going to do my usual caveat where I say we record these and it is 3:33 p.m. Pacific time on Friday, April 9th. And this information is good as of right now at this timestamp because there is a question about will students be allowed to continue to work remotely if they are not able to enter the country in the fall? And the answer right now is we don't know, but my guess is no. And so that's a difficult question to hear the answer to if you are an international student stuck abroad who's counting on that income. So let me add a secondary piece to that, which is that we are committed to meeting our funding guarantees for our PhD and MFA students, regardless of where you are. And so this is why it's thorny, because we're trying to figure out exactly how we're going to do this. But if you do not have work authorization to be working in the US, we've sort of gotten a bit of a pass this past year because of COVID, where all universities around the US were dealing with the same problem, and lots of other companies who had people get stuck abroad and all kinds of things. And this sort of thing where you're not really allowed to work from another country or even another state for that matter was sort of allowed. Everyone was, making plans, trying to figure it out as we're all dealing with it. Once we get to a point where really things are open in the US and people are working here, it's much harder to make that same justification. And therefore, I'm just trying to kind of read the tea leaves and think that we probably won't continue this authorization, which we currently only have through spring quarter to allow you to work remotely abroad. Fellowships, however, can be given to students abroad. And so again, if you're a PhD student who's very worried because you have a funding guarantee and you absolutely cannot get here, we're going to try to work with you and figure that out. If you can get here and you're choosing not to, that's going to be a little bit of a different situation. And that's, I think I can speak for housing to say it's going to be the same deal there, as well as other parts of the campus. If you can't get here, we're going to try to find a way to work with you. But that doesn't mean everyone can just choose to sort of live wherever they want to be and so on. There's a follow-up question here about, can you take a leave of absence without losing your funding? Typically, when you take a leave of absence, you don't lose your funding. And by that, I mean, when you come back, your funding is still in place. If you're on leave, you are not currently our student, and so we can't fund you or house you. But when you return, everything is still in place. So you don't sort of lose things while you're away. So certainly leave of absence is a valid answer. Deferrals, if we really need to, we'll defer you as well. So students, I know there are some incoming students on this call. There may be people who were incoming for last fall, deferred for a year, and now you're incoming. The University of California officially doesn't really allow us to do 2 deferrals in a year, but again, we will make it work. So if you are really unable to get here, reach out to all of us. So as Gretchen put in the chat, Please reach out to housing if you find that you have signed a lease and you are just unable to get here. They will work with you. Please reach out to the International Center if you need to change your I-20 because the consulate never opened or whatever else may have happened. Please reach out to my office if you need to do a deferral or a leave of absence or other kinds of things. So definitely stay in touch. We are watching things as they develop. I don't know, Lou or Archana, if either one of you want to comment on when we think we might know more. It's really tricky to guess.
Yeah, so for, I guess, immigration wise, we are eagerly awaiting new guidance from SEVP, the Student and Exchange Visitor Program. So currently the guidance that we've been operating under is set to end this spring term. And so now we are waiting and hoping that by next month that we'll just kind of, somebody will get some guidance together to give us some better clarity in how to guide our students when it comes to what the requirements will be for this coming academic year, how that applies to new students, how that applies to continuing students. And so one of the things that we do is update our website as soon as policy guidance is up to date. We also work closely with our campus partners to inform them about any requirements that new or continuing students will have to meet for immigration purposes. So we will share that information with many of the people on this call today. So the information will get out to maybe your department contacts and stuff that you're in touch with. They will eventually have this information as well. So we're really hoping that next month we can kind of gain some clarity for the upcoming school year. But it's hard to say right now if the existing guidance will continue or if there will be new guidance or if there will be no guidance and we're expected to operate under normal conditions. So we will do our best to get that information out as quickly as we can. I know there's a lot of planning that has to take place for all of you in terms of just planning to be here in the US and studying and meeting that immigration requirement, the compliance requirements of being a student here. So we will keep you posted. Please check our website frequently. I can't encourage you enough. We have immigration policy updates that are listed and I would say within a day are updated once we've had an opportunity to assess policies. So that's available to you. There's a lot of information there about what's happened until date too. We know there's a lot of confusion last year. So I'm thinking that will not happen again. But I would say routinely check there. That's something that we're very good about updating along with the frequently asked questions we have for new students and for all students. So I would say, please take a look at that to maybe your questions would be answered through that manner.
Yes, the only thing I would have to add is that we have been talking with members of our congressional delegation expressing the impacts that the consulate closures have had for student visas, and our members are well aware. I was in a meeting with one just the other day, and we'll continue to update them. And especially we know that with the State Department and their look at a phased reopening and then processing of new visas, we'll have to see how that plays out and what impacts the remaining.
Thank you so much. Sorry, I'm having little muting issues clearly today. So we got an interesting question. Thank you, Laura, because this is not one we've had before. So that's always exciting for me. Can international students be under filing fee for fall 2021 and live outside the US? As far as where you are when we confer your degree, it's kind of doesn't matter to the university. So it's really a question of funding. And if you're under filing fee, we're not funding you anyway. So yes, you are totally fine to be abroad and be under filing fee, not a problem. So excellent question. And thank you for asking that. And then there is a question, it's a great one for Archana. I know this came up a lot last year about OPT. So is there a deadline for students to actually arrive in the US and still qualify for OPT?
Yeah, so for the one-year programs, it's been very challenging. I know that a lot of the graduate programs that could offer it did offer multiple quarters beyond a 3-quarter program if they could accommodate that through the course load. So one of the main requirements of being eligible for any work authorization in the US is that you must enter the US and have an active immigration status for 3 quarters before you become eligible. So I think in the main thing to remember in this particular situation is that the main thing that needs to take place is that you have to be able to enter the US and be present in the US for your courses to meet that requirement for OPT eligibility. We do have a few students who did most of their 1-year program abroad and are coming for 1 quarter. And unfortunately, that does not meet the requirements of having status, F1 status in the US for 1 year. So if you have a specific situation pertaining to you, I do encourage you to contact our office so we can look at your situation more closely. We can propose some solutions that may work for you if that work authorization is something that you have a goal to participate in as a part of your post-completion graduation plan. So we can help you try to figure out what would work and also share with you what will not work. Again, because we're awaiting guidance, what I'm sharing with you today could be different if guidance we receive is different. But as of now, the main requirement for any program is that a student has to establish 1 academic year of status in the US before they become eligible for any type of work authorization, whether that's curricular practical training or optional practical training.
Thank you. And we do have another question that will be you, so don't go off that mute too quick. So I know this is when your office gets a lot, and unfortunately, I don't think we're going to give an answer people are going to love, but looking for support from immigration attorneys. What recommendations do you have and what support UCI can provide?
Yeah, so immigration attorneys, we have, campus has representatives on behalf of UCI. But if a student needs individualized immigration expertise and advisement for any particular situation, it is independent of anything that the university can offer. So I would say that's a little bit of a tough question for me to answer because we do have students who do work with immigration attorneys based on specific situations. And we do have some resources available so that students can search for an attorney to help them with a specific issue pertaining to what it is that they may need. So we have some general resources available to seek attorney guidance, but we don't have an attorney specific to our campus to assist with particular issues.
Thank you so much for that. And I'll just remind everyone again that the International Center always posts their latest information on their website. So always good to check there first for whatever resources that they might have there. We've got a question about sort of what are the new resources to help with current visa concerns. And the answer is almost always go to the International Center website, see what you can learn there. And as you have questions, go ahead and put them in to their help desk box. They are pretty slammed right now, as you might imagine, particularly processing new I-20s and other kinds of things, but they will get back to you in my experience, typically within a week. So give them a moment and they'll do what they can to get back in touch. So thank you all for so many questions. We have learned that I am abysmal at predicting who's going to get all the questions because I thought for sure it was going to be the housing folks and it's really been the International Center today. So who knows? And whenever I don't think it's the health people and therefore don't have them here, we get a ton of questions about vaccines and testing and all the rest. And today almost none. So thank you all for keeping me on my toes as we work through these questions. I'm going to hand it back to Archana for one more question if she's brave enough to do about US taxes, which I actually wasn't even going to try to call on her, but since she's said she'll answer it, let's go for it.
Stella, I know we've been in touch about a lot of things regarding your program and time here at UCI. So one of the things I do, it is very challenging. Everybody in this room is not qualified to answer questions about taxes, as you're well aware. But one of the things we did do is host a tax workshop. So we did have a CPA come to campus, I believe in March, early March, that did record a webinar for filing taxes in the US, and that is available on our website under the tax section. That's going to be the best guidance that we can offer you, but he gives a really good workshop and is well versed in like international student tax reporting. So I would encourage you to at least watch that workshop. I can't remember right now. I'm not having a photographic memory of the information that's exactly listed on our website, but you can definitely, his name and information is listed there as well. So in case something specific comes up, you can reach out to our office and see if we can facilitate any sort of communication there. But that's one resource I would recommend that you watch, because that is a tax expert, and we did hire him on behalf of the university to speak to international student taxes.
Thank you so much for that. And Archana, if you can get that link over to me, we will put it in this afternoon's message out to the grad students as well, to try to encourage more folks to go ahead and watch those recordings. This is also the moment where I say graduate student taxes might be the most confusing thing I've ever encountered in terms of taxes. And I say this as a person who's lived in other countries, who has had my own startup, and yet still. So we are going to continue to have some resources through grad division as well in this upcoming year around financial planning, around dealing with fellowship taxes, which are really different than employment taxes, and all of that stuff. Does not substitute for an actual tax advisor who is certified, but at least that can give you some self-help kinds of information and so on. I've got a question about Sprint tax. I don't know anything about it, so we will look into it and let you know what can potentially be offered there. I don't know that particular product. And Glacier is a system that we use here at UCI. I don't know if anyone wants to raise their hand to speak about it. No, we'll get some more information out about those particular products. All I know about Glacier is we use it, but beyond that, I can't be particularly helpful. So we do have just a few minutes left, and it looks like we are running low on our questions. So I will now just tell our panelists if there's anything else that you'd like to add, that you want to make sure that our wonderful international students know on this fine Friday afternoon, evening, Saturday morning, as the case may be. Wave your hand for a sec. No final thoughts. All right. Well, thank you, everyone. And again, reminder, if you are watching this on the video after the fact, all information subject to change, particularly as it relates to international visa regulations and our public health context, as those do tend to change fairly frequently around here. Congrats again to the wonderful housing team and public health team who worked tirelessly the last couple of weeks to get you all the new housing regulations that you got today that should make your lives a bit easier, and while still maintaining your well-being on campus. So thank you all to our panelists, and thank you to everyone who's listening and attending. Really appreciate your insights and your thoughts, and we'll see you all soon.